You're live. Thank you, sir. Good evening. If you will please join me with the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So bow your head, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to help our community grow. We also ask that you watch over and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
I now call the Elkins Common Council meeting to order, and we'll ask our clerk to take roll.
Councilor Bross Fraganera.
Here.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Here.
Councilor Kwanzo.
Present.
Councilor Guy.
Present.
Councilor Higgins.
Here.
Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Lowther.
Here.
Councilor Parker.
Here.
Councilor Vest.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for public comment tonight? If none, I will move down to the minutes portion, and I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes from the June 14th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, under your correspondence and notifications, I don't think you do have the building permits tonight, but you do have the events and the minutes for the committee, boards, and the commission meetings. We do have a presentation, I believe, by our Fire Chief Himes, and this is regarding our ISO rating and evaluation. Chief Himes. And as we're waiting, I was just informed we're working on getting a third television so the people in the gallery can actually watch what we're showing, displaying.
Yeah, I explained that, tried that
That's why we're
before.
working on getting the third TV.
Yeah.
No.
No.
We may just be able to unplug it. Wait, here we go. All right. Okay. Got it? Thanks, sir. Okay, I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but I've been wanting to go over this before it actually takes effect. As you're all well aware, we received our evaluation, went through the process October 26th. We received the score back in mid-May. So just a brief overview of how this works. I gave everybody a scoring sheet from this rating. It says PPC review on it, so you can kind of follow along. So there's 4 criteria in our score that is how they come up with the sum total of the points. All right, it's on a 105.5 scale. 10 points is for communications, 50% is 50 points, or 50% is the fire department, 40 points for the water system, and community risk reduction points are 5.5. Then the way that breaks down in your score, if you score 90 points or higher, you're considered a class 1 department, and then it goes down incrementally in groups of 10 per classification. This goes back to 86. That's the last one I can get my hands on. The whole entire grading system was redone in 2012. The old way of doing it, they gave you 100 points to start, and then every place they could find to deduct you, they deducted from you. And they reversed that in 2012, and now they gave you credit for things instead of just trying to make you look bad and take things away from you. So in 86, we were at a class 5 with a 52.04 score. 99, we went up to a 54.01. 15 years was the increment under the old system because everything had to be done manually. An evaluator would be here usually 3 days, flowing hydrants and checking buildings and doing a lot of that. Its technology has introduced many, many advantages to this process, and we were with our evaluator for 3 hours this time. In 2017, we went up 2 classifications. We gained several points under the new scoring system. So this rating of a class 3 is credited to any property that is within 5 road miles of the fire station and 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant. So under communications, the 3 things that they look at is telephone service, operators, and dispatch circuits. This is all entirely what 911 provides to us. And this is a little graph of how we shook out here. We got maximum points for call processing. That's what emergency reporting falls under. The time that it takes them to answer the call, statistically over every call they take, how many operators are working, and dispatch circuits was really our only weakness, and well, their only weakness, but part of that falls from their monitoring of their tower sites and their remote monitoring of the tower sites to let them know whether something was down from the console. This was a 7.2 in 2017. The new center going in and all the technology upgrades that came with the CAD system that was chosen, they really did a very good job this time around. We get down to the fire department, some of the things that they look at, the number of engine companies we have to have, that's based on our buildings. I've got a multiple page report on square footage of buildings, the size, the construction type, whether the building's sprinkled or not, and that factors into our total pump capacity. They are very particular about having enough pumpers to provide the pump capacity, even though it is 2 different credits. Reserve pumpers, if we have one broken down, or do we have something to replace it with? Our ladder and service companies, basically what a service truck is a ladder truck with no aerial ladder on it. We use our rescue truck for that purpose. The deployment analysis is how many fire stations we have and the travel distance to several properties. Company personnel is the people that respond to these fires, and training is our training points, and then we have some operational considerations that we have standard operating guidelines and utilizing an incident management system. So we went 6 out of 6 on engine company credit, 3 out of 3 on pump capacity. A couple of these numbers are not correct. After the rating came back to me, I spent about 3 hours on the phone with underwriting, asking why. We actually should have received full credit for the reserve pumper and full credit for the ladder. There was apparently either a typo on the form that was submitted or something didn't cross over when the evaluator put it in. The only downfall is the points that were gained is not enough to raise us a class, so they will not republish the score. But we're actually better than what we thought. Our reserve ladder credit, if we don't have, we only have to have 1 ladder truck up to 8 engine companies, and we only have to have 3. So we didn't even need a reserve ladder, but because we have a mutual aid agreement with Buchanan, they go ahead and gave us that credit. The deployment analysis is what it is. It's been this way since '86. We will never improve on deployment analysis until we get a second fire station. Our coverage area is just too large to run it from 1 location. Company personnel, we actually had a slight decrease there. One thing I might add is that some of this stuff is historical data. It's not reflective of where we are today, but it's historical data based on call volume and the turnout on those calls from 2019. We didn't have a full year for 2021, so they wouldn't take it, and he refused to use the 2020 COVID year because of all the shutdowns. Training agencies weren't providing classes, and it was just, you know, the numbers were just abysmal. So 2019 is what numbers are being reflected with some of this stuff. Our training points went up exponentially. We actually tripled our in-company training hours. Our average was, if my memory serves me correctly, our average was about 1,100 to 1,200 hours a year. In 2019, we did over 3,000 hours. So we're finding new and creative ways to tie in menial, ordinary tasks to a training classification, because it's just how you think outside the box and apply it to what we do. And we got full credit on our operational considerations. So the total fire department credit out of a total of 50 points was a total of 32. I think because of the two items that we talked about on the first page, we lost 0.2 of a point from 2017. But I believe those are restored, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Water supply is 40% of the total score. They look at the supply system, how many hydrants we have, and credit for inspection and flow testing. So our supply system, we had 24.9 out of 30. We got 3 out of 3 out of hydrants. We were 3/100ths of a point away from a perfect score on inspection and testing. Wes was extremely helpful. He came down to the station and spent time with the evaluator. Some of what we gained here, we gained about 1.5 points on water, and the reason we did is ISO didn't even know that the city had resale customers and other systems that they sold to, so they didn't have the 1.5 million storage tanks that Midland have factored into the system. And in 17, they were told we had a 4 million gallon storage tank, but the plant having a 6 million gallon pump capacity, that matters. So, and in addition, same situation with the 911 center. The new plant wasn't open when they were here last. So we did gain some points in water. Community risk reduction, this was added in 2016 for municipalities that have building inspectors, code enforcement, fire marshal divisions, things like that. You have to remember this grading schedule is for every fire district in the nation. They hold me to the same exact requirements and the same scoring system as DC, Chicago, LA City, Dallas, doesn't matter. Same scoring system for everybody. So we get a baseline credit for the things that State Fire Marshal's Office does, both by Title 87 State Fire Code and some of the actions that council has adopted over the years. We even get credits for some of the work that Phil does, even though he's not affiliated with the fire department. So we got 4.41 out of 5 there. So this is where they stop giving points and they start taking away. Mm-hmm. Divergence is a factor that, and the logic behind this is the fire department's on a 50-point scale, the water department's on a 40-point scale. To make those level out, they take points away. So our divergence a couple years ago was 3.9. It went up to 4.4 because we stayed about the same and water went up. So they took points away from me. I don't understand it, nor do I like it. So in a nutshell, 9.1 on the communications, 32 for fire, 34.87 for water, 4.41 for community risk reduction. 4.63 was our deduction or our divergence. Total score was 75.75. When they add back in a couple of points that we lost, underwriting tells me that we're realistically sitting between a 77 and a 78. we need to get to an 80 to get to that Class 2 classification. So we didn't do any worse. This is a breakdown from about 2 years ago. Nationally, 39,850 fire protection districts in the country. About 1% become a Class 1. About 8% of the total fire departments are a Class 3, and we are sitting in about the top 14%. So this is where we stand. If we can document enough points gained, they will come back and see us in 2 years. If not, it'll be 5 years before this is done again. Anybody have any? I know that's
So what
quick.
class have we been normally?
2017, we were a Class 3 then. So we stayed in the same class. We gained about 2.5 to 3 total points in the scoring. So we're sitting about 2 points away from the next classification, which will be the Class 2.
Oh.
That will, everybody
So
should.
the better is the lower?
The lower number is the better, yes. Yeah. A Class 10 community doesn't have a fire department at all.
Chief,
Yeah.
would you mind telling folks why this ISO, rating is important with regard to their homeowners insurance?
Sure. Yeah, this is, at one time it was the only factor, now it is a combination of factors that determine what you pay for your homeowner's insurance. So we had, I'm gonna tell you that it's roughly between $50 and $60 a point. When we dropped in 2017, if you were paying attention, you should have seen a reduction in your premium 5 years ago. Anywhere from $80 to $100 a year. So to me, a lot of people view the fire department differently. I tend to view the fire department as critical infrastructure because you're not going to attract businesses if you're in a Class 8 community. But you might if you're a Class 3 or Class 2, I would hope, because they know that their investment is somewhat protected. The grading schedule itself is in a binder in my office, and it's about yay thick. So if you ever want to know anything in greater detail, my office is 2 blocks down the street. I will not subject that to you tonight.
I did want to ask a question too, if I
Yes,
may.
ma'am.
Absolutely.
We've got the adoption of the updated state building codes on the agenda tonight, and based on, I think, what you had described in your
Correct.
report there, that's the sort of thing that helps us out, right?
Yes.
Keeping on top of that.
Yes. In 1984, council adopted both NFPA 1, which is the Uniform Fire Code, and NFPA 101. And that was even prior to some of the building codes and some of the stuff that we're doing now at the building inspector level. And then, and keep in mind that there are certain occupancies, anything educational, anything healthcare, things like that, fire marshal's office has to inspect those typically at construction as well as annually. And so the water system points, they look at the specific buildings and make sure that we have water for those buildings. The building department of ISO, it's a totally different, we're talking about a worldwide agency here. They have offices all over the planet. And they have a building department that's totally separate from community risk reduction and the public protection class program. So if you have a building or a business in town and you decide to add a sprinkler system, the fire flow on that building goes from whatever it was to 0. So it helps you, but it also helps me, because if I got bad water in that area, now you're not my problem anymore. So a lot of the buildings that are on our batch report either have added sprinkler systems or had them all along, and they've never called ISO's building department because it's the property owner's responsibility to do that. So, but water is not our problem. I can promise you that, having 19 years on a pump panel, we don't have a problem with water. There's lots of it. So, but anytime anybody ever wants to learn more about this, I'll be happy to show, tell, or give you any information that you would like.
Do you think Class 2 is achievable?
I believe that it is. We're going to have some stars align and some things come together. It's going to be very difficult, and I will tell you that my guys are great. My guys they are skilled, they are committed, they are compassionate, and some of the things I tell them to do is very dangerous and could be hazardous to their health. It's not a question of their commitment. It's a question that I don't have enough of them. And a lot of them work out of town or they work in other safety sensitive jobs that they can't leave. So sometimes it's hard to get enough people and the people that they want me to have for a standard alarm to a structure fire. They want us to assemble 18 people. And that's even including our automatic aid resources. In 2019, we flirted with it. There was a couple that was a lot better, some was right there, and some was lower. This year, numbers are a lot better, but I've lost 2 volunteers this year because they both moved out of the area. So if I keep losing people because of socioeconomic conditions and, you know, life happening and getting old, and volunteer firemen retire too. So if I lose people, I got less to draw from. So it's a balance.
So you need to have a whole recruitment campaign.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's a lot harder today, and it's not an Elkins problem, believe me. There's departments right in your back door that are having exactly the same issues. I'm gonna tell you, half the fire departments in this county probably have a little less than 20 people. And we're sitting today at 26, and that's pretty good. For a long time, 25 was all they had here, and it's pretty good. But we're in a lot better shape than a lot of other people, for certain.
Well, saying yes, that it is achievable was the right answer, Chief. Thank you.
Well, yeah.
Appreciate that.
Dad always told
I know
me.
you're competitive.
Dad always told me can't never could do anything.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the Chief? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for hearing me out tonight.
Thank you.
I'll be back in a little bit.
Thank you for your work.
Okay, we'll move down to the committee reports, and we'll start with Councilor Chenoweth.
Personnel Committee, I don't have any report, but our next personnel meeting is July 14th at noon. Then the Personnel Committee is also setting as the special hiring committee for the new operations manager position. So that meeting of that committee will be following the personnel meeting at 1 on the same day, July 14th.
Thank you. Councilor Guy.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Hinchman.
Yes, Finance met on the 5th of this month, and we went over the coal severance budget revisions. We went over the strategic plan budget funds. We're a little short on what we want to do, but it's not that much. We also had discussions on the transfer of funds from the financial stabilization so that we could close down the parking lot out there. And then we went over the downtown sound system fees.
Thank you. Councilor Higgins.
I have no report.
Thank you. Councilor Lowther.
Parks will meet on the 20th of this month at 5 p.m. at the Phil Gaynor Center.
Thank you. Councilor Bross-Bergenera.
We have a Rules and Ordinance Committee meeting on Wednesday, 9 o'clock. And then also there's the comprehensive plan amendments public hearing on the excuse me, I'm sorry. On the 18th at 7 o'clock. And I believe that's all we have. I think on the 13th on the agenda is, I
can't even remember.
Council rule regarding executive
Okay.
session is one of them.
The council rules about going into executive session. And I think that's it for me in the near future. Thank you.
Counselor Kwanzo.
Good evening. Tree Board met Tuesday evening, and I think what we've decided to do is to do a monthly Cump House during the summer. We've had great luck using the mountain boys that have helped us twice already this season and done a lot of work, so they can get a lot of work done, and I think we're able to use them, so we're going to ask them to join us through the summer. And we've decided to do another Adopt a Tree program for the wards, and that will be held on Saturday, September 1st at the Cump House. We're going to make a little, October? October 1st, sorry. Thank you. October 1st, because you can't plant trees in September. Anyway, and our new potential, if you guys agree this evening, to accept Era Burkhart. She came to the meeting last night. We all met her. She's a very nice lady. And looking forward to having 7 people on the council now. All right, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Vest.
The next ad hoc audit committee will meet July the 19th at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Counselor Parker.
Have no report for public safety. Our next meeting is Monday, the 11th, 10 o'clock, here in Chambers. And for the task force on substance abuse and homelessness, we are continuing with our work very actively. We are focusing on 2 primary goals, one being to get the proper arrangements made for our peers teams to work as they need to work to receive the highest level of state certification. And we're pursuing that vigorously. And the second piece is transitional sober living facility, most specifically for women, because that's where the greatest need is in this region and in the state. And I had a note this afternoon, we may be making some progress on that too. But we have met with some remarkable resource people who have great experience in these areas from around the state. And they're thoroughly encouraging. So we're staying after it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, down to the staff reports. I'll start with Chief Bennett, please.
Good evening. In June, the Elkins Police Department responded to 598 calls for service, which generated 28 cases, resulting in 21 arrests and 41 citations issued. Through June 28th through the 30th, we conducted the Mountain Region Special Response Team Orientation, which is the 4-county, 7-department tactical team. We had, I think, 18 officers in the region come through for the 3 days of training. That's people that are already, have been previously through a basic SWAT class. So it's just to orient them to our team. In August, the 1st through the 5th, we're running a 40-hour basic SWAT course for officers who have never been through the training before. They're going to join the team, so we'll end up with right around 25 officers on the team, which is awesome. We have 1 vehicle still in the garage that's being repaired from a crash during a pursuit. We have 3 vehicles that are scheduled to have recalls done on them. And for the next 3 months, we're going to have officers working special patrols through the Governor's Highway Safety Program for both speed enforcement and DUI patrol. With that, what ends up happening is we get allotted a certain amount of money each month, and we bring officers in on overtime shifts that do nothing but those functions, either speed patrol or DUI patrol, and then their overtime is paid by the state through the Governor's Highway Safety Program. So that's good. We'll see a few more cruisers out on the street doing specific functions. Other than that, I have nothing else unless you have questions for me.
Thank you, Chief, and good luck next week at your dance competition.
Ballroom dancing.
He knows what it means. Ms. Himes.
Good evening. I don't have a lot to report on tonight, but just trying to keep everything balanced and learn some new things this week. I do want to let everybody know Shanna's going to be out tomorrow through next week, so it'll just be me in the office. So if I'm not in the office and I may be at a meeting, give me a call on my cell if you need anything. Jessica and I are working with, we're going to be doing the interviews for the HVAC system next week with Dustin Smith. We're also going to have a generator meeting next week with Master Service Electricians and Bryson Van Nostrand. And then we're working on the bridge design. I know you guys are probably aware of that. Josh probably reported on that. And then I'm working right now on a temp for building permits, and I'm hoping to have some information for public safety on Monday. Hopefully I'll have some info, and then once I report there, I can send out an email to everybody. But we are still accepting applications. We're just letting folks know there may be a delay. So if you know anybody that has questions, just have them to give me a call. Other than that, I think just hanging in there. Do you guys have any questions? Nope.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Ms. Judy, Happy New Year. It's our new fiscal year, yes.
I don't have anything to report because I've been really busy. Closing out fiscal year '22, starting with fiscal year '23, financial statements, PSC reports, on and on. So just a busy time in the office. Second quarter B&Os are due in July. If you haven't received or haven't renewed your business license, please do so. They went to June the 30th. Anybody have any questions for me? All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chief Himes.
This will be even shorter, I promise. 73 calls in June brings us to 302 for the year. Couple other things that, nothing out of the ordinary call-wise, but just a couple things that occurred in the last week or week and a half. We were unsuccessful with the Firehouse Subs Foundation grant. So we will reevaluate our position there and decide how we're going to make sure that our boat operators and water guys have the ability to not get swept down the river. And last 2 Saturdays ago, 25th, we had a 3-hour elevator emergency class that was provided to us free of charge from the OEM director in Braxton County. You probably saw it on Facebook page and in the paper. It was extremely informative. In my haste to get it to Sutton, I forgot probably the most important part of that class, though. In order to do it, you have to have an elevator. So big shout out to Davis Medical Center and Steve Johnson for letting us pretty much take over half the building and do whatever we wanted to do. They've been a great partner to us for many, many, many years, and we couldn't have had that 3 or 4 hour educational session without their help. So, anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Ms. Sutton.
Thank you. Just an update on the riverfront design. I'm expecting the final design to be provided within the next week or so. And then there'll be a stakeholder meeting set up where the architectural and engineering firm will come back to town and do that presentation, probably towards the end of July, third, fourth week in July, maybe early August. I'll have to coordinate that with them. Just so you're all aware, I think you've heard some things about this, but Hubcap, that program is ending the end of September. It was about 3 years when we were involved in that program, and that team is transitioning over to the Hub DARE program, which is the Downtown Appalachia Revitalization of Recreational Economies, I think that's right.
Yes.
So you'll start to hear a little bit more about that. I know there's already it's focused on properties downtown. They can be privately owned or publicly owned, and there's already some property owners that have reached out to those individuals that are involved in accepting those applications, and they're working with them. On the agenda tonight is an item regarding Monforest Towns. As you all know, because of Tara's departure from the CVB, she's also leaving as the representative on that board, the Elkins representative. And so under consideration will be my appointment to that board to take her place. And then the streetscape designs, Melody and I believe Dave Cutlip has offered to help review those. We have several submissions for that RFQ, and so we'll be going through those, evaluating them, and then determining how many firms will be interviewed afterwards. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two things quickly. If you've been past 943 South Davis Avenue, you probably have seen that the house that was there is no longer there. And as soon as we have the final invoices, and I'm going to check with Tracy if we've gotten them yet, we'll be putting a lien on the property for the total amount of that. I also, in the order that Judge Wilmoth entered, we have authority to try to sell the property too, so it's a little different situation. We'll just see what the final invoices are for that demolition, and there was some asbestos testing that was done prior to the demolition. The other thing is I'd like to make a pitch for the Municipal League Annual Conference that's coming up the first week of August. It's August 2nd through the 5th. It is in Morgantown at the Marriott at the waterfront. I think that any member of council that could spare some time to go just one of the days, you don't have to go every day, but I believe Jessica and the mayor and I are all planning on going. I can tell you it's the most valuable meeting. There are workshops that talk about a lot of things that we talk about here at council and in committee meetings. You get an opportunity to meet with other city officials from all over the state, and it is a really great opportunity for networking and also to realize that what this city faces is not a whole lot different than a lot of other cities in the state. So if anyone's interested, you can still, I believe till July 20th, register online. You can actually go and register there too if you can go for a day. But the agenda is out. I'm happy to forward it to everybody, but I think if you could spare some time that week, and it is in Morgantown, so it's, you can even drive up and back that day if you didn't want to stay, but there's a lot of really good information and the opportunity to meet the professionals that run that organization that this city's a member of, and who are, all those emails you get in during the legislative session, that comes from the folks at the Municipal League, and they are now working on what the policies they'd like to have looked at for next year. So that's my pitch about if you can find some time to go to the Municipal League meeting, it is well worth attending. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving down to the approval of vendor invoice payments.
I move we pay the AP.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving down to unfinished business now. Resolution 1539, authorizing application to the West Virginia COVID Pandemic DR 4517 West Virginia grant funding by the Elkins Sanitary Board. Did you by chance have information on this since Whitney's not here?
Yes, Ms. Roberts is going to speak
thank
to
you.
it if there's a motion to approve.
Marilyn made a motion.
Okay.
Is that what you said? I'm sorry, Marilyn.
Yes, we
Okay,
can
thank you.
talk about it.
Okay, so we have a motion. Any comments or discussion on this?
I'm happy to explain if you, okay. So this is, I think the first thing you will want to know is there'll be no money that will come from the city funds. This will be totally funded grant. I believe it's either 75-25 split, 75 from FEMA, 25 from state funds, but there'll be no funding that will need to come from the city. It is a grant that will allow all of the different stations that we have throughout the city that are part of the sewer system will have a generator on each and every
Dedicated
one of them.
generators.
Pardon me?
They have dedicated generators, is my
Right,
understanding.
and
instead of having
these
them-
will be, this money will be used for all of those, which you can imagine would be an integral part of having that system be operational and do the job. So since it has to come from the city to actually make the application, it's been discussed at the sanitary board. Whitney Himes has done an incredible job getting all the information together already. One of the things you need to do is have this resolution that allows her to go forward on the application. I believe the application is due by August the 5th, and she's been working on it. And both Jessica and I have been discussing it with her, so we think, I think it's ready to go. And she's done the actual application. She's putting this together, and we've spoken with Mr. Hatfield, who is the person in charge of this program at the state level, and I think it would be a great opportunity for the city to have these generators for each and every one of these stations.
And if I may, just because there may be a need for some clarity, this is quite separate and apart from the ARPA funds.
This is totally, this is a FEMA
Correct.
grant.
Yeah.
This is a FEMA mitigation grant, nothing to do with ARPA funds. This is a grant that's out there that's available because you operate a sanitary system in this city, that you can be one of the people that would apply or one of the entities that will apply for it. This is not ARPA funding. This is a grant
you.
that comes through from FEMA, is my understanding.
That is correct. Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion?
Oh, I was gonna say, so, as a result of this grant, what will we be getting?
You're going to get generators, yeah.
So that's
Funding
a-
to buy the generators.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I remember when we lost electricity during Sandy and we thought the water was going to.
Well, this is sewer. This is
Yeah, I
not
know.
water.
But
This is
it's
totally
all
different.
important to have.
Yeah, these stations all need it. It's a critical part of the wastewater
great.
treatment in the city. And I will tell you, Whitney was unable to be here this evening, so I said I'd tell you as much as I can.
Great.
She would be much more knowledgeable than I am, obviously, on the engineering part of it, whatever. But the one thing I think would be important to know is there's no funds that will come from the city at all, or from the sewer fund, that enterprise fund. This is all going to be funded directly as grants, if you're fortunate enough to get the grant.
Do we know the amount of the funding? How much it is?
I forget, she did tell me the amount on the generators. I just don't remember the exact dollar amount, but it'll be consistent with whatever the estimated cost of these generators are.
Does it include installation, or is that something?
It covers
responsible?
everything. It will cover the actual generator and the installation. Of course, the city will have some part of that, because the city workers can certainly do some of that. But anything that would be normally covered with installing these generators.
Thank you.
That does lead me to something else, though. What about repair and maintenance costs?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, what about the repair and maintenance costs?
I don't know what kind of warranties these have. I haven't seen that. This is looking for funding, and frankly, the city still won't be responsible for that. That comes out of the enterprise fund. I mean, general revenues from the city does not fund any of this. So, it comes from ratepayers, what they pay and how, because that fund has to operate totally on its own. So if there are future repairs or maintenance, surely there'll be a warranty with these. These are brand new. So I don't know. We don't have those specifics yet, because
Gotcha.
we don't know whether they're going to get the grant, although Whitney has already figured out what generators she wants, what would work the best, and what would be available. But any repair and maintenance would have to come out of that fund, not from city general revenue funds.
Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Down to new business. Ordinance 299, an ordinance of the Common Council of City of Elkins, West Virginia, amending Chapter 150.035 regarding the version of International Building Code adopted as the state building code. This is the first of two readings. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
We just get a little background of the
Yeah.
ordinance.
Okay, so the State Fire Marshal's Office, who is the entity at the state level that licenses code enforcement officers, building inspectors such as Mr. Eisner, notified him sometime late winter, early spring, that the state had adopted the 2018 version of the IBC, the International Building Code. So the new state building code is the 2018 version. The one that was in place before was the 2015. In order for the city to continue to enforce and have a code enforcement officer and use the international building code and the international property maintenance code, you have to adopt this ordinance prior to August the 1st. Once it's adopted, if council adopts it into first and second reading, a certified copy will be submitted to the State Fire Marshal's Office to show that the city has done this. I think since I've been the city attorney, this is probably the second or third time that you've done this. There are newer versions of the International Building Code, but the state has decided to adopt the 2018 version. So in order to continue doing the code enforcement and building code that you have in the city, you need to make this change. The 2015 version will no longer be the one that will be available to use. So this is the first reading of it, and so in order to get it done by the 1st of August, it needs to be.
Does the IPMC come under this as well?
Yes, yes.
That's what I thought,
Yeah,
okay.
it all does.
Which is really essential for us as a city if we're going to have a code enforcement function. Because IPMC addresses virtually every one of the common concerns that we encounter.
Yeah, the big difference between these two things is the building code specifies some of the things that Chief Himes was talking about. You know, fire protection, the type of electrical service you have, you know, the specifications of the heights of ceilings, whatever. That deals with either new buildings or additions to buildings. The IPMC has to do with the typical exterior issues that come up with properties, such as things like high grass, trash, you know, those sorts of things. Those are two separate things, but yes, it does. And you've already adopted the IPMC. It has not changed. It is still there. This has to do with the building code itself.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 300, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, revising Chapter 93, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places of the City Code to establish rules and regulations for outdoor dining and public spaces. This is also the first of two readings. Looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion?
Can we get some background on this ordinance as well?
Sure. So the Rules and Ordinance Committee probably has had at least 2, perhaps 3 meetings where this very issue has been addressed. We looked at other cities, within the state that have regulations concerning outdoor dining, and this is putting in place some regulations as to how you do it, you know, what's allowed, where you can, how much space you can take up. An application will need to be submitted. There'll be a fee, very small fee, and you'll need to do this yearly. I think long before the pandemic, there were people looking at the opportunity of having outdoor dining. It's sort of has a different flair for getting people in the community involved. So in light of the request from the Rules and Ordinance Committee and the time spent on looking at other cities and what they've done, this has been tailored to fit the needs, I believe, of the city of Elkins moving forward with regard to any outdoor dining experiences. These are the ones that are on public rights-of-way. That's what this is about. That's important to know that. This is because you, as the city, have the right to regulate and maintain your rights-of-way, the streets, your sidewalks. So this has to do with just that. If someone has on their own property, that's a whole different thing. This has to do with your regulating the ones that would be on sidewalk property. Many cities in the state have them. Wheeling does, Huntington, Charleston. There perhaps are others, I'm not sure, but those are the three we've really looked at.
May I ask, is this going to affect the ones that have little tables and chairs?
That's what part of this is, yes, yes.
So they will have to come and pay their fee and
That's the goal.
with it?
That's the goal.
I know some of them already sit on the side.
Yeah, there are people that already have been doing this, and some of it came about in the last couple of years when you were allowed, only had limited seating with inside your business, and so some businesses decided to do some outdoor dining facilities. So this is putting in place some regulations with regard to using the city's sidewalks, public ways, for outdoor dining.
And who's going to do the checking on this?
Well, the way it's scheduled right now, it will go through the building inspector's office. Code enforcement will be the one that, the application will come to them. They will, that person will make the determination as to, does it have the right footage? Is it not impeding people going by, because you have to have enough clearance? They'll be the ones that will look at the application and approve it before the person can go forward doing it. So that's the goal.
And one of the things I would like to point out is we did look at other cities, and we really pared this down to not having it as challenging for the business owner as possible. We have a very low fee. Mostly, we were concerned about public safety, making sure that access to fire hydrants and whatever, that's not impeded. We have to be mindful of those who are handicapped, and also just maintenance as well. When you're looking at downtown venues, you want to make sure that the furniture or whatever is in pretty good condition. But it's only a $25 fee, and we really want to encourage more outdoor facilities. So hopefully this will work.
One thing I failed to mention, if this is an establishment that has some type of liquor license, depending on what they're permitted to serve by the ABC Commission, any regulations that the ABC Commission has with regard to where they can and can't serve, whatever their license to serve, that still is in place. You can't change that. Don't want anyone to think that this is going to change those regulations. It will not. It will also not change any other state or federal regulations that have to do with how you operate a business. So particularly, I think the question would be those that have license to serve beer or wine or alcoholic beverages. So they still have to comply with whatever the ABC Commission's regulations are with regard to that. And they're very strict, as I'm sure some of you might know. So we're not interfering with any of that.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1541, appointment of building inspector and code enforcement officer as the zoning officer. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
Your Honor, can I make a comment about that?
You can.
It was not included in the packets because I'd like to request that it be postponed
Okay.
until a determination's made about, and we have time to do that. The intention of this was to assign a zoning officer, which will be required once the zoning ordinance is passed, the proposed zoning ordinance. So we still have a few months to take care of this, but given the current circumstances, just like to ask for a motion to postpone this.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to postpone this.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries, and we will postpone Resolution 1541. Resolution 1542, appointment of Jay Sutton as Mon Forest Town Partnership Board of Directors, Elkins representative. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any other comments or discussion?
Do we know this person?
Just
Slightly.
barely.
Trustworthy.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1543, appointment of Abe Burkhart to the Elkins Tree Board. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1544, appointment of second ward counselor to unexpired term. Looking for a motion to accept, please.
Make
So
a-
moved.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, who would you like there?
Elected officials and mayor.
Thank you.